Our journey begins today, early in the 21st century, in a seemingly ordinary German town. But behind the unassuming facade of normality, there lurked a narrative so ghastly it would send shockwaves around the world. Armin Meiwes and Bernd Eugen Brands. This is not an urban legend. If he's unfamiliar to you, please brace yourselves because this is going to get dark. And as we navigate the story of Meiwes, we're going to be also tackling some of the dark corners of human nature that I learned about researching this case. It led me down some dark places. Not for the faint of heart. Armin Meiwes, a computer repair technician from Rotenburg, Germany, held a gruesome fascination that tipped over from fantasy into terrifying reality. He held a dark desire to consume another human being, a fascination that led him on a path that few have dared. Vorophilia, or vor, let's talk about the definition of it. The term vor is an abbreviation for vorophilia, derived from the Latin vorare, which means to swallow or to devour, and the Greek philia, which indicates a strong affinity for love. In the broadest sense, vorophilia is an erotic fascination or obsession with the act of one creature consuming another. This can involve the desire to be consumed or the one doing the consuming. Vorophilia, or vor, isn't a new concept. Surprisingly, its ancient roots are entrenched in mythology and folklore. Stories from the cultures around the globe have depicted creatures devouring others, often a symbol of power, dominance, or used to incite fear. Cannibalism, and it's a weird thing because, in nature, it's somewhat common. You see it, for example, in black bears. They'll often the males will cannibalize other bears. Sometimes it's said to be done as a form of kind of erasing genetic competition, breeding dominance in a certain area to ensure their genetics make it out. So it exists in biology that there's these weird things with cannibalism. So maybe there is some kind of weird part in humans. I don't know. But myself, I prefer to eat at the grocery store. In terms of the history of cannibalism, there's atrocities, but one of the things that I think this whole obsession also comes from is the fact that there's been so many famines throughout history that have led to literally humans having to eat other humans, and not just in survival situations. I guess I had only thought of cannibalism in the context of a few serial killers and maybe a few uncontacted people that still practice the old ways. But then, unfortunately, much to my chagrin, it was a little bit more common than I wanted to think. Here's some examples. In April 2009, two men from the city of Perm, Russia, killed and ate their brother. The two men police reports identified 28-year-old Timur and 23-year-old Marat, and they're accused of killing their brother, Rafis, and consuming his meat for more than 6 months. They hid the bones in their garden, where they remained for a year and a half. The remaining brothers admitted to their crimes, and they also told police the whole story of the murder. Killing their brother during the fight, and essentially why waste the meat. It should be noted that these guys were intellectual or addiction issues. They just weren't all there. This lady, who is going to be an episode, actually I don't think I will be doing one on her. She sucks too much. Kelly Cochran, anyway, she's from Iron River, Michigan, USA. So she and her husband Jason lived there. They lured over Chris Reagan to their home in 2014 under the guise of a dinner invitation. Reagan was shot and dismembered by the couple, and because for this one reason, essentially, if one of them was unfaithful, person with whom they were unfaithful, their partner, had to kill them. It's later confessed by her that after they did this, that they actually took some of his remains and served it up at a neighborhood barbecue. Though the police have never confirmed this themselves. Jason Cochran later died from a heroin overdose. However, Kelly later confessed that she killed him as revenge for taking the only good thing in her life, Reagan, the guy that they killed. Please follow, share, whatever. Love comments. You can say something stupid or say something smart wherever you want. Martin Latunsky from Michigan, USA came into the public eye in 2019 when he was charged with the murder of Kevin Bacon. No, not the famous actor, just another Kevin Bacon. The two met through the dating app Grindr. According to police, Lutinsky confessed to killing and eating Bacon's body. I know, I can't just walk over that, man. I can't do it. But the fact this guy got eaten and his name is Bacon is not lost on me. People, what about voluntary cannibalism? That's what we're going to get into. Back into Armin Mewes, a computer repair technician from Rotenburg, Germany, held a gruesome fascination that tipped over from fantasy into terrifying reality. He held a dark desire to consume another human being, a fascination that led him on a path that few have dared, and thank God for that. So Armin, he was an ordinary looking man. He stood about 6 feet tall. He was lean, maintained a neat appearance. He did not have that kind of classic cannibal look, though he does now. His face is dominated by a pair of glasses that sit prominently on his nose, and he's got a soft shade of blue eyes, and you could describe it, I would say, as placid. To understand this ghastly act, I'm going to go back to the town of Essen. In 1961, Mewes is living a somewhat ordinary life. However, below the normality of him, there looks like a horrifying obsession. From a young age, he fantasizes about consuming another human being. According to the reports, the unusual fantasy emerges during his childhood. Then young Armin, left with his overbearing mother, began to develop this dark fascination. So this is like a funny, on the subject of this is your classic devouring mother character that is all consuming with the young child and warps him to in a pretty bad way. His fantasies weren't just about the consumption, it was a desire to complete a total union with another human being. Mewes wanted to consume someone, make that person a part of himself. In his own twisted logic, this act of consumption represented the ultimate form of intimacy. A disturbing notion that he would one day seek to turn into reality. As Mewes grew older, the fantasies didn't fade away. Instead, they took on a life of their own, escalating from mere daydreams to an obsession that started to consume him. As an adult, Mewes was said to have constructed a slaughter room in his farmhouse, a room that he would eventually use to carry out his darkest desire. Despite his alarming fantasies, Mewes was able to maintain the normal, picturesque appearance and led a somewhat ordinary life until the early months, I think it was March of 2001. Armin, an unassuming computer repair technician, trawling the shadowy corners of the internet, and he lands on the ominously named site, the Cannibal Cafe. This forum, shrouded in anonymity, served as a bizarre gathering place for individuals who harbored cannibalistic fantasies. For most, this was merely a dark playground for role-playing and shared fiction. However, for Mewes, it was more than that. It was a means to realize a twisted fantasy that lurked within him since he was a young person. Browsing through the forum, he stumbled upon Bernd Jürgen Brands, a man hailing from the bustling cityscape of Berlin. Brands was different from any of the other anonymous users. He responded to a morbid post from Mewes, one that sought a willing participant that wanted to be eaten. The proposition sounds nightmarish, yet Brands willingly enters into this grim pact. His affirmation would later give complication to the legal proceedings that truly add a layer of complexity. After an eerie exchange of messages, the stage is set. The two men arrange to meet, and they essentially meet at Mewes' farmhouse, nestled in the quaint town of Rotenburg. Brands journeyed from his urban life into the quiet German countryside, a chilling decision that he truly went willingly. This chilling twist of events it's truly almost unthinkable. You have a man and he agrees to complete trust and his fate into another man. He wants to be eaten by him, literally killed and eaten. I don't understand why he would want this. There's some speculation around that, but his consent to this made it truly, really made the entire kind of what would have come after truly complex. So on March 9, 2001, they meet up and they meet at the farmhouse, a place devoid of social scrutiny, a setting that was about to become the backdrop for an act that would send tremors through human morality. It was premeditated and planned with horrifying detail, agreed upon by both men who were entwined with a deep fascination of one to be eaten and the other to eat. The farmhouse where the gruesome crime took place was located not too far out from the outside. The farmhouse appears as like a rustic, unassuming building that's got a traditional design with a sloping roof, weathered wooden panels, and small windows that look out over a modest yard. Inside, the atmosphere is stark in contrast to the peaceful exterior. The police haven't revealed all of the details about what happened during the crime. It's just said to be like, it was bad, really gory, like everything was filmed. So just to give you an idea, the slaughter room, as it was called, is a grim chamber purposely that was constructed by Armin, and its purpose was solely to fulfill his darkest fantasies. The room was equipped with things like leather restraints, paraphernalia like surgical tools, and instruments associated with the act of dismemberment. The exact layout and appearance of the room is not known, as the authorities have taken a lot of care to protect the privacy not only of the victims but also their families. How Brands ends up in this position isn't truly known, other than he was there and unfortunately he wanted to be killed in his mind. Brands did express like a desire for Maywes to actually remove his body parts while he was still alive, so it wasn't done post-mortem, and this was done to a certain extent. I believe he had him cut off his penis, and parts of his body were actually stored in his freezer with the intention of consuming them later. Maywes filmed the entire killing, but the footage will never likely be made public, and for good reason. Only in December of 2002, an anonymous tip comes in and police arrest Maywes. Again, a lot of the details just don't get released by the police. I can see why maybe people don't want to come forward, because if you're like in a cannibal chat room, you're probably not lining up to come and be a good witness. Anyhow, the police do find the body parts and the video footage in his home, and in 2003, the media goes wild over this because Maywes is arguing that this is consensual and therefore ethical and okay. And at the heart of the trial, though, is like the question: is it a form of murder or is it a form of assisted suicide? I don't think there was ever a question that this guy was going to go to jail. I think it's going to be a question, or it was a question, of how long he would go. He is only convicted of manslaughter, however, at the time, and sentenced to 8.5 years in prison. Eventually, he's retried and he's convicted of murder, rightfully, when he's sentenced to life in prison. It's said that like during the trial, people were calling him the cannibal of Rothenburg, and as some of the details began to come to light, in Germany, the defense argues that because it's a shared fantasy, that this guy shouldn't go to jail. Anyhow, in the end, Maywes is convicted of murder, and that's the end of it. He's in jail, and he's gonna stay there, and the only thing he'll be eating is his cellmate. Thanks for joining us anyhow about this gross stuff, and please again share the podcast with somebody. Could really use your help getting the word out there.